Let's see. All right, I guess I'm live. So I don't really know how far into this I'm going to be getting today, but let's see. Nope, wrong one. Tetris. Is this it? Is this the one? I think. I'm pretty sure. All right, so let's run it. Let's see where we're at. Open with live server. And I think I got this on 2 seconds. Let's set it on 1,000 milliseconds. Actually, just to see what the current state of things is, I'm going to let this go through. Okay, cool. So it's not keeping the piece on the grid. Let me go ahead and increase the font size for you guys. Preferences, settings, font size, let's do 24 pixels. That ought to do it. And I'm going to decrease the amount of visibility I have over here. That way we can see the code a little better. And I think we're good to go. Let's see, what is it I want to do today? Well, for one, the very first thing that there's two directions I can go. I can either go ahead and start setting it up to where I can start moving around with the arrow keys. That would be cool. Or I could just try, I guess that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and get movement down first. So there's going to be two aspects of movement: rotation and left and right movement. We already have the downward movement. That seems to be working pretty well. And so I can pretty much use that algorithm to be the basis of my left and right movement. And then I'm going to have to set some constraints, like I need to check whether or not I'm able to move left, you know? So if I get all the way to the edge of the screen over here, I shouldn't be able to move any more left than that. And same with right. So that's just some thoughts. I guess I'll go ahead and do that. So the first thing that comes to my head is I need to be able to add, so I'm going to go ahead and set this back to 2000. That way it's not moving so quickly. I need to add some event listeners on the arrow keys. So where's a good spot for that? Probably obviously in here, but I'm going to create a function. Am I using arrow functions? Yeah. So let's go ahead and create a function here. I'm going to say const init keys, arrows, and init controls. I like that. And we're going to say document.add event listener. What are we thinking? Key down? Key down? Yeah, key down. Let's do key down. And the function we want to run whenever we get a key down is going to basically be probably a switch statement. So we'll start with an E. And let's, I'm going to log the event because I need to know what the key is, like the key code. Let me put this on the bottom so it's not squishing things. I need to know what the key code is. Holy, here. Well, I got some other logs in here, don't I? Let me remove my log statements so that I'm not flooding the gates here. There's one more somewhere here. Cool. So let's see. When I press the up button, I need to call this function. Init controls needs to be called. I'll call it inside of, I guess at the same time as the init grid. Cool. So inside of here, press up, and it says arrow up is the key name. That is really convenient. Back in the day, it used to not be that convenient, but now in 2020, it is that convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that. Yeah, it used to be like you'd have to use key code. I don't know how supported key and code is in browsers, but I'm just going to be concerned right now with Google Chrome. And then if that doesn't work in like Internet Explorer or something like that, then oh well. Browser support isn't a huge deal for me right now. So let's go ahead and check for that. Let's do a switch statement on that. Let's do some auto switch statement. All right, so I'll go ahead and pull that out. Const key code is equal to E dot key. Do we want to do key or code? I guess key's fine. And then let's switch on key code. And let's do the first one. Let's say arrow up. And then console.log. Woohoo. Let's see if that works. Yep, cool. So I'm just gonna guess it's gonna also be like arrow down. I mean, not arrow down, arrow left and arrow right. Could be wrong, but let's find out. Remove that. So on arrow left, yep. So the same thing with arrow right. So in Tetris, typically on a keyboard, when you play Tetris on a keyboard, when you press that up arrow, that's the rotation. So let me just quickly verify that arrow right works. Yep, awesome. So let me put a note here. We'll say rotate, and arrow up, it's gonna rotate it. Then arrow left is obviously gonna move left. And obviously arrow right is going to move right. So we have this move function, right? Like let's see what we need. So we have move piece. We have a switch statement here. So I can add a new case. Where does this one end? It ends here. So let's add a case for left. Yeah. And what is the functionality for moving left? Okay. So it looks like it's going to be very similar to down. So I'm basically I think I want to just copy this code and then look through it and change some things here and there. So what we're doing is we're looping through the grid backwards. Let me think, do I need to loop through backwards to move left? No, I need to loop forwards. So I think moving right will be the best way first, because thinking about the algorithm the other way is going to be a little bit more complicated. So let me just start with the easy one and try to get right working, and then I can worry about left in a second. I'm pretty sure that I need to loop backwards for moving right. Let me think in my brain. Yep. So I need to loop backwards for moving right. So we grab the grid, and then we're looping backwards, and then the way that I need to check this is, instead of checking on the row underneath, I need to check on the same row but the unit to the right. So let's see. If grid ij I plus 1, so I shouldn't say I plus 1, I should probably say j plus 1 is less than grid I j dot length. Is that right? And then we're going to say if grid ij, so if grid ij would be the unit, so grid is the two-dimensional array, grid I is the row, grid ij is the unit. So if grid ij dot id, so if there is a piece on that unit and j plus 1, so if the unit plus 1 is less than the length of the row, then we know that we're allowed to move one to the right. I think that is making sense so far. So if this is true, what we're doing here is grid I plus 1. This is where we want to change this to basically do that instead. Yes. I think we're good. And then so else if, and then we want to switch this to j, then current piece is equal to, so we don't need to worry about this stuff. We don't need to worry about that stuff, because that was basically saying, like, that was checking whether or not we've reached the bottom of the grid. And when we reach the bottom of the grid, we actually want to reset and like create a new piece. We don't want to do that. There's really nothing we want to do if you're not allowed to move right. We just don't let you move right. Kind of makes sense, hopefully. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I don't know. Let's go ahead and call move piece right. And I think move piece returns a new grid. How do we do that? We do, let's see, how are we utilizing this? We're saying constant new grid. We're saying draw grid with that. We're calling draw grid with the new grid here. All right. I wonder if this is gonna work. Okay, I already have a problem. It says identifier grid has already been declared. That is on line 142, and you know, that's super interesting. Grid has already been declared, and oh, it's a let. It's a let. That's why, isn't it? Scope, fun things in scope. Let's I mean, we're gonna need the grid no matter what, so I guess we can just go ahead and do that up here. Let me just move this out of here. See if that fixes us. It fixes us. Awesome. And when I press right, nothing happens. So let's just start debugging and figuring out, do we at least get this far? So I press this. Yeah, I get that far. Okay, so let's check the if statement and let's see if we get that far. Wait for the piece to generate. Okay, we don't get inside the if statement, so this is false for some reason. So that is looking like our problem, maybe. Let's see if we're at least getting here. We should, but I just want to be sure. This should log like a ton of times when I press the right. Yep, 220 times. Excellent. So I know I'm getting here. The only thing that's wrong so far is my if statement is not true for some reason. So let's think about this. Grid ij. Let's log each individually each one of these. Start here. And then let's log j+1. And let's log that. Oh, you know what? I think I know what the problem is. It's supposed to be that, isn't it? Let's try that. Oh, look at that. Okay, but so it works. I can move to the right, but I shouldn't be able to move to the right now, but I can. So what I need to do, oh, I know what it is. Ooh, okay, let me think for a second. So the reason why is because I think it's only checking one, like for instance, let me kind of demonstrate this, make sure this makes sense. So there's two rows here. I think it's only checking one of the rows, maybe. Let's see. Like, you see how it pushes that piece back? So my algorithm is off. So I think it's correct in a way, maybe. But something about it's off. So let's see what we got going on here. So we're looping through individually. I'm not. So first of all, I should probably break out of. Okay. I should probably break out of the for loop. Should probably break out of the for loop as soon as that happens. Let me see. Ooh, that's not the behavior. So we want to have a specific case, don't we? We want to say this, but we want to check and say if it's equal. Let's try that. Okay, we're closer. It's still not quite it. So let's wait for this thing to, okay. Okay, that one works. So this one works. Interesting. So it has to be on the bottom row. Is that what it is? For this particular case. Let's find one where, okay, so this one will break. But let's increase the speed here. So this one should not break. Yeah, okay. So I think I have an idea of what's going on here, which is good. I don't know about this one. Okay, this one does not break. So it's only checking the bottom row, but it's not also checking the top row. So, okay, I think I get it. So we don't really need to be checking every single piece of the Tetris block. We really only need to be checking each row's final index, if that makes sense. Each row's final index. So I don't need this inner loop here. Thank God, because, well, I'm on the wrong one. I don't need this this inner loop right here. So let me comment that out for a minute. Probably reuse some of the logic. Instead, what I want to do is loop through the outer, do this if check here, but modify it a little bit to only check the final index. So I don't have a J anymore. So get rid of J. Let me just start from here. So if grid I, and then the index that I want to access is this is grid I. So actually what I need to do is keep this particular part. So I need to say if we're on a piece that has an ID and there's an easier way to do this because there is no J. So instead we need to say if grid I dot length minus 1 dot ID, but we need to check minus 2, don't we? If grid I dot length minus 2, because really what we're checking is right here. No? No. This might be easier than I thought. This might be the only thing we need to check. So if the last one here has a piece with an ID, then we should not be able to go right at all. So maybe I can do that. So we can say, if not that, then go ahead and do the thing. Go ahead and move the stuff. Okay. So I don't think we need an else yet. We might in a minute. So if that, then we want to move the piece. And it looks like we already have the functionality for moving the piece. The problem is I need to move all of the pieces. So this is where I would have a new for loop, I think. And I would loop through those pieces and basically move. It would basically be this for loop, but without the if check. Yeah, I'm thinking about this for a second. So if grid I dot length minus 1 dot ID, then we're saying if not that, then go ahead and move the piece. We're allowed to move the piece. So we're going to loop through backwards. So I'm going to take this functionality here, paste this into here, and then I'm going to take this stuff. So I don't need the if check anymore because we moved the if check to the outside. Yeah. And then what we're going to do is if we'll say else, I don't know, I want to be a little bit more explicit for a second. So I'm going to put an else if, and I'll remove this little exclamation point here. So it'll be the complete opposite of this. Else probably would work, but again, just want to be a little explicit for now in case I add more logic later. Return grid. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. That's amazing. This is amazing. I don't even know what's going on. So let's... What exactly just happened there? Anyway, so we have that. Maybe I should just ignore that. Let's see. Wow. That's crazy. So I do need an if. I do need an if check. It's going to be... It's going to be this. Totally. Well. Now we're just in a worse position than we were before. I mean, well, that one works. That one does not work. And this one does not work. In fact, that's crazy. That just totally turns the piece around. Okay, so... And this, guys, is why I called this series Attempting to Code Tetris. I think I can definitely do it. It's just going to keep... It's not something I can just do very easily. So it's definitely a leveling up thing for me, but I just wanted to do it live because I want you to kind of see my thought process as I go through something that's challenging to me, and maybe you can apply it to your own problems when you're trying to solve issues. I'm going to keep doing this until I get it, but I just wanted to kind of explain, like, getting stuck is very common in programming. So just, you know, if you ever get stuck while you're coding, just do what I do and have some fun with it and just keep going with it. And if you get to the point where you just can't do it anymore, your brain is just fried, take a break. But I'm good for now. So let's see. I'm looping through the rows and I'm saying if... Oh, wow. This logic won't really work that well anyway. I'm starting to think I need to rethink the way that I'm doing this, but nah. I think the main problem that I'm having here is this is not very easy to read at all. So it's like I need to come up with a better, more declarative, kind of easier to read, kind of almost like a framework to make it easier for me to rationalize what I'm working on here. But at the same time, I'm still at the point where I'm trying to prove out this code. I'm still trying to make sure that what I'm doing here is actually going to work. So I don't want to start abstracting any of this logic until I know that this is actually the direction I want to take. So I have to look at this really ridiculous looking code until I can prove it out, and then I'll probably abstract it and make it look pretty and more efficient. So I'm going to read this out loud. I am looping through the rows, and if any of the last items on the row is a piece, like if it has an ID, and if it has an ID, then I know it's like part of a Tetris block. If it's on the edge, actually, if it's not on the edge, that's what this is. So the opposite. So if it's not on the edge, then we want to go ahead and move it to the right. Here's the problem with this logic, though. As we start to set pieces at the bottom, we are going to, this is going to end up being true for a lot of, like, not just the piece that's falling, but also the pieces that have set, because those are still going to have IDs. So what I also need to, I think I'm going to need to also check whether or not it is the piece that is, you know, that might actually be the problem here too. That might fix that problem too. Sorry if I'm like halfway talking out loud and thinking in my head, but I think I found the potential issue that I was running into up here. So if grid ij id and I plus 1, instead of checking like that, I should add another piece that says if this ID is equal to current piece ID, right? So maybe that'll fix the potential issue here. I mean, heck, I might run into new issues, but we'll see in a second. Come on. Look at that. Oh, I don't know. Bummer. Well, so anyway, the point is I need to do this check over here as well. So let's do that before I forget. Okay. So now we're looping through. We're doing an additional loop, and we're looping through. Oh, I see what the problem is. This for loop does need to be on the outside. Think about this again. This for loop, I think, does need to be on the outside because what's happening is we're doing a for loop on a single row. Wait, no, we're not. Here. That piece works. That piece does not work. Is it because I need to break out of the loop? So I definitely think that might have something to do with it. Okay, now it's always false. Or that's the problem, is that I need to be more specific inside of this if statement. So else if grid i.j minus 1 dot id. Okay. And oh, I'm missing that piece. Wait. Minus 1. I feel like I need to copy, console.log this and just like stop trying to guess and actually figure this out. This is potentially painful for those watching this who are probably just as, if not more confused than I am. But I think I know, I'm starting to definitely dig in and figure out what the problem is. This is returning, let me just verify. I think this is returning instantly. Hello. I'll just put hello. Let me open the console. So when I press right, nope. We're not even getting that far. Or that's kind of strange. Then what are we getting in here? Nope. So something happened. It must be this logic that I added that I know I need. Okay, that actually works. Let's try a different piece. That works. Let's get one where it's on the top row. Well, try that. That works. Come on, give me one. Yeah. Ooh, okay, so we're still breaking on ones where we're checking on where we can't move because of the top row. The ones where it can't move because of the bottom row works fine. So when does this get called? right there. I need that one piece again. I need the reverse Z block. All right, let's just manually make it happen. So now we should only get these. Interesting. Hello got called, but it still moved the piece. Now, why would that be? Hello got called, and yet it's still... But yet, somehow both? When I press right, that happens, okay. That makes sense. 1, 2, so we need to somehow... Okay. That's so annoying. Let's make it 50-50. Let's allow for an RZ block and a Z block. So neither works, and that's because I'm turning grid. But when I do, it works, so that means that I need to check for all cases within here. So maybe I'm only checking the bottom row. I mean, there's definitely one way that I know would work, which is to manually check the row above it as well, like that. This should be an OR, probably. Can't wait to refactor this and make it less ridiculous. My brain. Sorry, I should check up on the stream too really quick, huh? Just see how you guys are doing. See here. It looks like I can't. Probably should have kept that tab open. All right, so grid I dot length -1 dot ID. So if that one, so we're returning grid on time. I know exactly what's going on. The question is what is the best way to solve it? So what's happening here is, in the case of this, I get over here. Let me slow it down so that we can talk about it. It'll help me rationalize it as well. Hopefully we get, nope, we don't. Let me comment that one out. Cool. So when this appears, I'll kind of explain what's going on. When I get here, what ends up happening is, since I'm looping through backwards, it gets here, and this is fine. Like this row if it was just checking one piece at a time, which it is, it's this row's fine. Like this row can move to the right, but we can't think about it in terms of singular rows. Like this row and this row for this piece are one unit. It's one shape. It's one Tetris block. But the way that this loop is comprised is it's thinking about this as completely separate units. It's not thinking of it as a full unified block and checking whether or not the block can move to the right. It's getting here and it's saying this piece can move to the right. So let's go ahead and jump into this if statement and move it to the right. And so when I do that, that happens. You see. So the bottom row moves to the right and the top one does not. So what I need to do is I need to, when I do the check, instead of just checking it like that, I need to get to here and then I need to say, okay, this one cannot move to the right. But I also need to check if the other row can move to the right before I jump down and move everything. So that is this portion right here. So this is where I should add some logic that checks if the other row can move to the right. Now, here's the thing. Well, so I need to say if that, and then this is where I'm going to do that extra logic. So I need to check the row above it. There's going to be a problem with this, but I'll explain that in a second. Check the row above it, so that's I minus 1. And I need to say not. And then let's set this to be the last one in the sequence. I think that's the logic. Let me just test it out. I gotta wait 5 seconds for a piece to appear. Property 9 of undefined. Oh, yeah, see, that was the problem right there that I knew I was gonna run into. So it'll work now. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so now it officially works. I've got it. It works. So the problem that I'm running into is I'm checking I minus 1 when there is no I minus 1. So right now there's no I minus 1 for the first row. So I need to check and make sure we're not on the 0. So we're going to have to say I is greater than 0. No, I is greater than or equal to 0. No, I is greater than 0 and this. So now it should work in theory. Let's find out. Whoa, that's crazy. That's not what we want. So I is greater than 0 and not that. So I think what I meant to say was possibly that. I can't even think right now. Let's check. And it works. Works like a charm. Cool. So let's just let's reset everything back and make sure that it works. I don't want to wait 5 seconds. Let's add the blocks back. Probably should have commented these out instead of deleting them. So add a T block, an O block, a J block, an I block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I, R, Z, Z, L. That's probably the one I'm missing. Yep. L block. Okay. So now let's just make sure that this works. Works with that one. And it works with that one. Cool. So I officially can move to the right. Now let's set it up to where I can also move to the left. Let's see. So moving to the left should, in theory, technically be easier. It's just a different way of thinking about it because I'm not going to be looping backwards. So let's change this to basically do the exact same thing as this, but instead we're going to call it with left. And then we're going to have to add this case. And I'm actually going to write it from scratch. Case left. So we're going to loop through, but we don't have to loop through backwards, thankfully. So let's say let I equal 0. I is less than grid.length. That is not what I'm trying to do. Grid.length. I++. So we'll loop through, and so we're looping through all the rows. And when we run into a piece, it's going to be very similar logic as below, but basically when we run into a piece, if the index is 0, then we can't move to the left. Let's see. So if, and I'll have to loop through each thing. So let's say for every row, I'm going to slow this down again so it's less distracting. For every row, if we come across a piece and the piece is on index 0, if j is 0, because we're going to have to do a nested loop, so I is the row, j is the unit. If j is 0, then we know we can't move left. Where are we? This is where we're at. So we'll go ahead and throw in this for loop. We'll do j. I cannot see my keyboard. Okay, so now we're looping through the row. And what we'll do is we'll do a quick check if j, so if grid ij dot id, and let's check that it's the current piece, grid ij dot id is equal to current piece dot id. I didn't do that check down here. That's going to come back to haunt me. I'll do that later and it'll haunt me. So if it's equal to the current piece ID and j is equal to 0, or is greater than 0, we'll say greater than 0, then let's move the piece. Let's do the logic where we'll move the piece. So it's going to be this, same logic, but instead of +1, it's -1. So that'll work, I think, until I get to the edge. So let's see what happens when I press left. So I'm pressing left and goodness. We are how is it calling the wrong code? Case left. Are we at seriously? Speed this up a little. It's also in 156. How is it calling the... Oh, I'm not breaking. I need to break out of it. I'm not breaking up here. Is it because... Ah. Cannot forget that. Okay, cool. So now I can move left and right. I can move right and it knows when to stop, but then I can move left and then it goes, ah, ah. So we're making good progress. I just need to do the check and make sure that I stop. So let's do, and there's also one more aspect of this that I cannot forget, which later on I'm going to have to add, which is there's two cases where you should not be able to move to the left. If you're on the edge of the screen, and also if there's a piece set, you shouldn't be able to go. So we're going to have to add that to the if condition later, but we're not there yet. We're not even setting pieces yet. They just disappear. So I need to do a simple check on the left. And so I'll probably end up having to do the same thing I did below for right. Wow. Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll say else if, and if this is true and that's true, if this is true and that's true, and then we have to check if the row below it. Now remember, we were checking for the row above it down here because we're looping backwards, but now we're looping forwards for left, so we need to check for the row below it. So I'll do this kind of similar logic, kind of. So if I is equal to 0, no. We don't care about that. Well, what we do care about is if I is equal to grid.length -1, because that means we're at the very bottom. And this, whoop, come on, VS Code. Instead of checking for I -1, we should check for I +1. Oh my gosh, stop doing that. And 0. Yep. Else if yeah. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Close. Very close. Think. Was this supposed to be a not? I don't think so. If I is equal to or grid I +1 0 dot ID. Grid I +1 0 dot ID. No. Let's just try this. Okay, that works. That works in both directions now. Does it work with every piece though? Let's try a different piece. That works. That works. That works. I think we got it. All right. Okay, so yeah, again, the code is really, really ugly, but I'm proving that this method does seem to be working so far. And when I fully prove it out, I'm going to go through and make sure that this code looks way better, is easier to understand, is more scalable, more efficient, and all that good stuff. But I think that's going to be it for now. The next one, I'm going to be worrying about the rotation, which is basically, in my head, I'm thinking I'm going to have to take a two-dimensional array and then rotate it. Yeah, that's going to be fun. I might use prototypes. Like I might use object-oriented programming a little bit to give these like a method that I can just call like iblock.rotate or something, or block.rotate, and then it'll just run the algorithm. That might be the easiest way to do it. Or I might just take a function and do it that way. But anyway, so now we have, I'm going to actually put this on like 300 so it goes fast so I can demo it one more time. So I can move left and right now. Awesome. Cool. So the next video is going to be setting the pieces and also rotating the pieces. So see you guys in the next one.